In 1993, mathematician Richard Garfield took inspiration from Cosmic Encounter and Dungeons & Dragons to craft the world's first and most successful collectible card game, Magic the Gathering. Themed as a head-to-head duel between enemy wizards, Magic established many of the mechanisms and business models that dominate the board and card game space today. Card rarity, deck construction, and regular expansions ensured that Magic's many fans embraced it as a lifestyle game that they literally invested in while crafting a personal deck that reflects their identity. The unprecedented success of Magic cannot be overstated, bringing millions of people into the hobby. And that's why Magic the Gathering has been inducted into the BoardGameGeek Hall of Fame for 2025.
Ah, Magic the Gathering, my beloved. Oh, hello. It's me, Becca Scott from Good Time Society, and I'm here to tell you about Magic. The most basic mechanics are simple. Each player brings a deck of cards constructed from their personal collection. Every deck is a mix of land cards, which provide a resource known as mana, and spell cards, which use that mana to perform the titular magic. Whichever player or planeswalker, as we call it, can use their spells to bring the other player or player's life totals to 0 first, wins the game. Easy, right? Well, with over 36,000 unique cards and growing, all designed to interact with each other in different ways, no two games of Magic are ever alike. So why is it going into the BoardGameGeek Hall of Fame? Because this is the greatest card game of all time! That's right, Uno fans, come at me. I'm gonna tell you 5 reasons why. Number 1, it's evolution. This card game has existed for 32 years. You could put a card that was made in 1993 into your most recent deck and no one would bat an eyelash. But at the same time, Magic in 2025 looks totally different than it did even a few years ago, with new lore and new mechanics that keep the game fresh and exciting. Number 2, there are so many formats to choose from, there's gonna be one that's right for you. Of course, there's the competitive 1v1 formats. You've got Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Vintage, each with their own set of allowable cards that make that format unique. Then there's Limited. This includes formats like Draft and Sealed, where you crack open 15-card packs and build a deck on the fly. This is definitely the most even playing field way to play, and one of my favorites because you just get to show off how good you are and didn't do any homework. But the most popular format is Commander. Often played with 4 people, this last player standing mode requires deft politicking, where the biggest threats are neutralized by the collective will of the other players, and the table talk is half the fun. I like to make some deals, if you know what I mean. Each playgroup sets their own Rule 0, where they determine what level of competition is right for their table. Ours is pure jank. Number 3, the community is huge and keeps on growing, including all kinds of people, and you could be part of it. There are Magic players from all around the world. Most local game stores host a Friday Night Magic. You probably have that friend who is dying to teach you how to play right now. Having people to play with is often the biggest hurdle to getting your favorite game on the table, and no matter where you live, there are inevitably people in your vicinity that are ready to shuffle up a game of Magic with you. Magic is for everyone. Number 4, personal customization. I built a squirrels deck, a card draw enchantments deck, a flying dragons deck, a turn creatures into creepy balloon heads deck, giant insect deck, cute corgi deck, and I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of all the fun combinations of things I'd like to try and build. Bringing something I created to game night and having someone say to me, "Whoa, that deck is awesome," or better yet, asking to borrow one of my decks, gives me no greater sense of pride. And number 5, big brain plays. You never forget the satisfaction of finding new combinations of plays in your own deck that escalate in ways you didn't even imagine when you put it together. I truly feel like a genius when my deck goes off, as we say in the lingo. So, now that you know all the things there are to love about Magic, all you need to remember is your brand new mantra. Untap, upkeep, draw, first main, combat, second main, instep, and pass. It's as easy as that.
Magic the Gathering is easily, by far, one of the most influential games of all time, especially the 21st century. It completely revolutionized everything about gaming. And it's been mind-blowing that ever since Magic the Gathering, there have been countless TCGs and CCGs or LCGs coming out every year, but only 3 have stuck around in the last 30 years. Just 3. And you know which 3 those are without me having to tell you. But it's not just the concept of dueling wizards, summoning creatures and beasts and fighting them and doing spells that instantly interrupt the other player. It's the entire business model itself. The idea of a starter pack and booster packs that have random assortments of cards, which led itself into tournament play and sweeping the entire nation and world with Magic the Gathering. I remember being dumbfounded by watching ESPN2 showing a Magic the Gathering on ESPN2. Mind-blowing for what it was back in the day. And it's been so amazing to see more and more people getting into this hobby, more people sharing this hobby, and the Magic and Gathering community just explode to where it is now. It is the life and blood of the local game stores in North America. It helps keep them alive and afloat. And it is a lifestyle game.
I'm going to talk about a game you might not expect me to talk about, which is Magic the Gathering. There are people who are much more hardcore Magic the Gathering players than I am. I'm not currently doing Friday Night Magic or anything like that. But nevertheless, it has had a huge impact on me as a gamer and really on the course of my life. And I suspect that other people are kind of in the same boat. So I remember seeing Magic cards in 7th grade when it first kind of started to hit, and my parents refusing to go buy it for me. And so I was jealous from that time. And so when I had a friend who played Magic in grad school, I started to play it, and I have never felt addiction like that. So this is probably Gate Crash era. I absolutely loved playing the game to the point where I was looking at pictures of cards online and thinking about how they could interact and trying to build theoretical decks, getting the cards that I did have and going to challenge my friends. And it was amazing, honestly. And I was looking for that feeling, and I couldn't play as much as I wanted to. And so I actually ended up finding the Lord of the Rings living card game because I wanted a deck construction game that was cheaper and that I could play cooperatively and by myself. And that is actually how I became a solo gamer, which has now led to me starting a YouTube channel, becoming a game designer, and quitting my job as an educator to work full-time in the game industry, which I truly don't think any of it would have happened if I had not encountered Magic the Gathering. So Magic the Gathering, you may be expensive, but without you, where would we be as a hobby?
I am so grateful to Magic the Gathering because it's one of the games that got me into the great big world of modern board games. When I was 10 years old, we had a family friend that just gave me boxes and boxes of Magic cards. Now as an adult, I realize those were the cards he didn't care about. But I was 10 years old. I didn't care. I thought it was so cool looking through all the cards. And I got obsessed with Magic from the age of 10 to 14. We had a game store that I lived near, and I would go and look through the glass at all this Magic single cards, and I would save up my money and allowance and mow lawns so I could buy cards and stuff like that. And I haven't played a lot of Magic over the last 20 years, but there's still such an amazing community for Magic. There are tournaments and events and stuff happening all over the world for Magic. There are so many 10-year-old kids now that are finding their way to games through Magic. There are so many adults that are still loving Magic and stuff like that. I just love that it's gotten so many people into games and that it helped me get into games. And so there's a reason it is still as popular, 30 years later as it was when it first started. It's just that great of a game, and that there's just cool combos and art and all that sort of stuff to explore in all the cards, and they're always releasing more content. So, if you want, you can always have Magic in your life for sure. So, yeah, thanks Magic the Gathering.
I'm here to celebrate Magic the Gathering, one of my favorite games and most played games and longest played games of any of the modern games that I've played. I started playing Magic the Gathering back in the revised format. This was, back in the 1990s, 1994, around that time. I was 12 or 13. I was in middle school, and I fell in love with the game. It felt like I was opening something ancient and playing it with friends, and I loved that. It wasn't about collecting. It wasn't about spending all that much money on it at the time. I just really loved playing it. It's given me so many ideas for mechanisms over the years, because I think Magic does a fantastic job of integrating the theme of the set with the mechanisms in that set. And even the specific mechanisms. I'm working on a game right now, in fact, that has that was inspired not by the full mechanisms of Magic the Gathering, but one specific thing that I think Magic does really well. I think it's had a huge impact on the hobby as well. I think Magic is perceived as a collectible card game, which it is, but I think Magic has opened the doors to a lot of other ways of playing games as well. You can just play Magic with the cards that you have. You can buy all commons and play Magic. There's so many different ways to play the game, so many different formats to play the game, and so many different ways to engage with the game, whether it's playing head-to-head or playing Commander with multiple people. I love that Magic has opened the doors in that way. In fact, one of the coolest things that I think Magic the Gathering has done is it's embraced fan-created formats, which we've seen a little bit in other tabletop games where fans create content for a game, where they create a new way of playing the game, and then the designer or publisher embraces that and brings it into an expansion or a future version of the game. But I think Magic is one of the games that does this in a really, really big way. There's so many different mechanisms and sets and themes and different things that Wizards of the Coast has done that has impacted the industry. Some not so good, but some many times for having a hugely positive impact. So I wanted to thank Magic the Gathering for its huge impact on me as a designer and as a gamer. And I think it has had a pretty huge influence on the gaming hobby as a whole.
Thank you to all of the contributors who helped make this video, and thank you for joining us in celebrating these incredible games and designers who have shaped the hobby we love. For more details and to explore even more amazing games, visit BoardGameGeek.com.